Well, hello, my friends, and we're so glad that you've joined us again today. I've got a guest with me today. He's my brother-in-law, Ken Vanderhoff. We're so excited that I could be with the family today. And anyway, we're going to talk between today and tomorrow about ministry. And we're going to look at the fivefold ministry that Ephesians talked about, Paul talked about in the book of Ephesians, the office of ministry, and also the work of the ministry. And he and I both are former pastors, so we have been involved in the office of the ministry. You know, the office in Ephesians 5 of the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, and pastors and teachers. But we both have different journeys, and maybe you could called in different ways, and if you could call it that. But for me, I was just raised in a preacher's home. I'm a preacher's kid, and I've always wanted to be a preacher. I always wanted to be a pastor. And so God allowed me to do that. But Ken had a little different journey, and today I wanted him to tell you a little bit about his journey. Ken, good to have you today.
Good to be with you, brother.
And just share with us your journey as far as being a pastor and how the Lord led you in that.
Okay, in a nutshell, both Buddy and I have pastored 30 plus years. I don't know how many for you, maybe more than that, but
23 for me.
A long time. But I was not raised in a pastor's home. I was just raised in a businessman's home. But when my father became a Christian, he had been a white collar alcoholic, had a church background, but had run from God. When he was saved, it was dramatic. And it changed our whole family, changed our whole lives. And
salvation makes a difference.
It made a difference. and God freed him, saved him, and our lives became about the work of the ministry. So I didn't know any different than my dad as a businessman, hosting breakfast for Anchorage, Alaska businessmen to tell them about Jesus and just finding things to do. We were plugged into our local church and those kinds of things, but that became our life. My dad would actually leave Alaska, take a leave of absence from work, and travel down through the states, the United States, continental United States, and wherever a door would open, he would preach.
So
he'd start with one. He wasn't a pastor.
So he wasn't ordained?
No, he was just passionate to tell people about Jesus.
Wow.
His life had been changed. So when you grow up in that environment, you don't see any difference. So I didn't expect to be a pastor, but when I was 17, I'd already had a life verse: seek first the kingdom of God, his righteousness, all these things shall be added. I knew my life was the Lord's, and I knew he would provide for my life, but something happened, and Galatians 2:20 became a life verse for me. I'm crucified with Christ, but I live. And it's Christ that lives in me, and he loves me. He gave himself for me. So I have a different life. And so when I was 17, I made a change. I had a life I kind of thought was going to be mine, the normal things, schooling. They tell you you're good at this, you'll do this. But I was so passionate to live a life just for Jesus. Pastoring became the thing. So other people saw things in me and affirmed.
So you didn't have a thus saith the Lord experience. It was just kind of
I kind of have those every day, actually. I hope that doesn't sound too spiritual. Honestly, I was so hungry for God every day. I felt the Lord was leading me. So it just took me to Bible school instead of something else.
You just touched on something. You've got to be hungry for God.
Well, when you don't have a life of your own and you need one from him, you gotta, it's not like it's, you gotta listen to the Lord and have.
But your father had an influence on you.
Of course. Like yours did you.
Yeah,
See, that's how you came to that obedience. So for you, it's capital M ministry, which was typically what we call fivefold things: prophets, apostles, missionaries, etc. That's capital M. I grew up with little m, like everyone's a minister,
right,
and I don't know anything else. And I would say my pastoral ministry, even though maybe I was serving as a pastor, my passion has been to resource and release others in ministry. My story is one thing, but believe me, I know lots of better stories about other people who've done the work of the ministry.
And tomorrow we're going to talk about that specifically. Excellent. And you're going to talk about that because you got some great stories that we want to hear, and people I believe want to hear. But if you had any kind of advice of someone that's just kind of thinking about or just praying about, whether they should actually go into the office of, one of those fivefold ministry that are not sure, what kind of advice would you give them? Or
I know the advice I got.
Okay.
No, you're not going to like this. And you probably heard the same thing. People would say, if you can do anything else than be a pastor, do it. You probably heard that.
Yeah,
too.
I heard that.
But I didn't find. I loved pastoring, and it was a delight.
And I did too.
Yeah, it was a delight.
I think it's an honor.
It was a delight, and it was when that was done, I knew it was done. However, you keep serving. Ministry is about serving, so the serving continues. The ministry never ends, and that role may end, but the ministry never ends. I would say to someone, you have to. I use this phrase: you have to get your antennas up. Antennas are receptors.
Right.
You have to get your receptors up. You start listening to God. You start looking around. You see what's around. You see, and God starts to put passions in your heart.
Yeah.
I've seen people see things I didn't see, a need I didn't see, an opportunity I didn't see, and it maybe would start with some little thing, generally not some great big plan. A lot of people plug into service within their church structure and things that are more formal and set up, but so many people do something from their place of business or from their neighborhood or something they've seen in their community, and they start to say, what can I do? And that's what I would encourage people to get your antennas up. Pay attention.
Kind of like Jeremiah said, it's like fire shut up in my bones.
Yeah, well, that'd be a strong statement of it. But yes, it doesn't have to start huge, but I know so many stories of wonderful Christ followers who are really, honestly, changing the world, and it's nice to be part of it. Because the sower, the waterer, the harvester, they're all in it together. We get the same reward. And so I feel like as a pastor, I got a lot of people started on a little bit of a journey, a small obedience that became a larger obedience, like it did in my own life. Mm-hmm. And now they're harvesting by the handfuls, and I get part of it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, listen, we're grateful that you joined us today, and be back with us tomorrow. We're going to have a couple of really good stories from Ken about people, ordinary people that are just doing the work of the ministry, that thousands of people are coming into the kingdom. And it can be you too. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.